This is the third video in our series of 7 that pays tribute to the men and women of our police force who have lost their lives in the line of duty. There are 21 police memorials in the London area, and this series will look at all of them in chronological order, 3 per video. If I've missed any that you think should be included, please accept my apologies and let me know in the comments. In the third video of our series, we will look at an horrific terrorist attack at one of the most iconic locations in London, Harrods, and a murder outside a London embassy that would prompt the founding of the Police Memorial Trust. And our first story is of a memorial in what must be one of the busiest locations in London, with tens of thousands of people passing by every day without noticing it. This is the story of the heroic sacrifice of Ken Howarth. This is Oxford Street. Oxford Street is the heart of London's shopping districts and is one of the busiest areas in London. And this is the memorial to Ken Howarth, an explosives officer with the Met Police who lost his life on the 26th of October 1981. On that day, the Met Police received a telephone call from someone claiming to be from the IRA. The caller said that a bomb would explode in a busy shopping street in London in 30 minutes. An IED, an improvised explosive device, had been planted in the basement toilet of a Wimpy Burger Bar restaurant in Oxford Street and was discovered when the staff were checking the property. A bomb disposal team arrived at the restaurant, and one of the team, Ken Howarth, went down into the basement to attempt to defuse the bomb. Ken Howarth had served for 23 years with the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, but had left the army to join the Met Police in a civilian role as an explosives officer. He had been with the Met Police for 8 years when he got the call about the bomb in Oxford Street. Tragically, the bomb was booby-trapped and it exploded as he attempted to defuse it, and it killed him instantly. He was survived by his wife Anne and his 2 children, Stephen and Susan. He was later posthumously awarded the George Medal for gallantry. In 1985, 2 IRA members, Paul Kavanagh and Thomas Quigley, were convicted of his murder, amongst other terror crimes, and were given 5 life sentences each. However, they were both released in 1999 as part of the Good Friday Agreement. This is Harrods, one of the most iconic shops in London. Its name is synonymous with luxury, and it is the ultimate retail destination for wealthy visitors to London. It is this reputation that made Harrods the target for an IRA bomb in the days leading up to Christmas in 1983.
The IRA bombed the Christmas shoppers at Harrods. 5 are dead, including 2 police officers, one of them a policewoman. More than 70 people are injured, 17 still in hospital seriously ill.
Off the Brompton Road and down the side of Harrods, a now pedestrianised area leads into Hans Crescent, and on the wall outside you can find this memorial to the people that lost their lives on Saturday the 17th of December 1983. This is the only memorial in our series that also pays tribute to the civilians who also lost their lives. 3 police officers, Inspector Stephen Dodd, Sergeant Noel Lane and WPC Jane Arbuthnot, and 3 members of the public, Philip Geddes, Kenneth Salverson and Jasmine Cochrane Patrick, were killed when the IRA detonated a car bomb parked in Hans Crescent. At 12:45 PM that day, the IRA gave a coded warning to the charity The Samaritans that there was a car bomb in Knightsbridge and gave the registration plate of the car. 4 officers in a car along with a dog handler and an officer on foot, approached the car which had been located parked in Hans Crescent. Due to the short notice provided, there was insufficient time to clear the area around the car, and the area was still crowded with Christmas shoppers. As the police car pulled alongside the suspect car, it exploded at 1:21 p.m. and caused enormous damage. The 5 floors of Harrods directly above the car had their windows blown out, showering glass down on people below. Of the 6 people mentioned in the memorial, 5 died at the scene, with the 6th Inspector Dodd dying a few days later in hospital. Another officer, PC John Gordon, lost both legs and part of his hand in the blast. Apart from the loss of life, another 90 people were injured in the explosion, including 14 police officers, and 4 London hospitals were put on high alert to cope with the casualties. The cruelty of the bombing, the location, the timing, the insufficient warning, and the resulting injuries and loss of life turned public opinion against the IRA to the point that the senior leadership of the organisation was forced to issue a claim that whilst its members had carried out the bombing, it had not been authorised, and said that it regretted the civilian casualties. Harrods was again attacked by the IRA in 1993, but this time the bomb was much smaller, and fortunately no one was killed, although 4 people were injured. This is St James's Square, and this is the memorial to WPC Yvonne Fletcher. This was actually the first memorial to be installed by the Police Memorial Trust. The founder of the trust, the film director Michael Winner, was so moved by the murder of WPC Fletcher that he wrote to the Times newspaper and suggested that a memorial be erected in her memory. The Times published the letter, and Winner was inundated by donations and letters of support from the general public. The memorial was erected on the 1st of February 1985. It was the 17th of April 1984, and there was a demonstration in St James's Square outside what was the Libyan embassy. The protest was due to the execution of 2 opponents of the Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi, and the staff at the embassy, expecting a protest, had asked the Libyan government how to deal with the demonstrators. The instruction was to open fire. This information was intercepted by the US and British intelligence services, but was never passed on to the Met Police. WPC Fletcher was policing the demonstration when there was a sudden burst of gunfire from a first-floor window. WPC Fletcher was hit by a bullet along with several of the demonstrators, but she was the only one who died. She died shortly after being shot, and this led to a siege of the embassy that lasted for 11 days. In the aftermath of the shooting, all diplomatic relations were severed with Libya by the British government, and to date, no one has ever been prosecuted for her murder. The tragic irony of Yvonne Fletcher is that she should never have been allowed to become a police officer. She was only 5'2" tall, and at the time, the minimum height requirement for female police officers was 5'4". However, her recruitment officer was so impressed by her determination to be a police officer, he allowed her to pass through. Thanks for watching. In our next video, we will look at what is possibly the most notorious murder of a police officer in British history. An officer who lost his life during a routine traffic stop, and an officer who died as a result of a false 999 call, a call made solely for the purpose of luring a police officer to his death.